Good morning, everybody. Shift your mindset here with a new episode, and that is Memorial Crack Season. Why crack season? Cracks, the meaning of that the memorial time is also the time that the Jehovah Witnesses are gonna doubt their beliefs. You hear the lawnmower, the gardener is busy, sorry for that, but I think we will be all right. Why and when are starting to cause the cracks? Because people in this time of the year are slipping off the track. Sand is coming into their gears. They maybe don't even know it themselves, but this is the time that people are doubting more than ever. Why do you think? Because it's memorial. We are celebrating something. Jesus' death. We are committed. We are going full force. The end is near. We have to do something. Yes. JWs are gonna dress up nice. They're gonna have a very static, dull evening together. No one is gonna use the symbols. We can talk about that another time. But why the cracks and where they're coming from? The cracks are coming from the people that are gonna participate in the memorial. Why? I had two in my congregation. Two were odd people. Didn't go into ministry with the other ones. They were loners. They were lone wolves. They didn't take the lead in the ministry, but they were participating. And around the memorial, I always noticed a certain pattern. And I love patterns because then I know what's going on. When I see something happening over and over again at the same time, then it's becoming a habit or a pattern. Because a lot of people are returning to their homes and they are gonna question the number of participants. The last time we see the numbers rise. I think the last decade already. And it's getting out of proportion. There are anointed ones that are 18 years old. Maybe some of you know them younger. Let me know in the comments. I love to see that. Because I know one is 18, 19 years old now. He's anointed. We already see that it was closed at 1935. 144,000 were full. There's no one there. But maybe there's around Rutherford, I believe, it is introduced again. And of course, you have to renew that doctrine, because otherwise the governing body couldn't appoint now Jody Jeddeley and that Winder and what is that called? A Flegel or Giegel or Giggle or that kind of stuff. So Let, Hurt, Leusch were the last ones maybe. But we have to keep the train running. We have to keep shoveling the coal to get the train running. So we have to come up with a new scheme. So that's why they introduced that the number 144,000 wasn't fulfilled yet. So there are people who are anointed and lose that anointed to be anointed because they were disfellowshipped or they left the organization. So a new one has to step in, a younger one, of course. So we have to have that scheme running, that Ponzi scheme, that multi-level marketing scheme. So that's why they keep on having anointed ones. That's why we have now a governing body member who is not even 50 years old. So, the overlapping generation, all that stuff is not helping the organization. And what better time than during the memorial season that people are coming home and don't understand anymore what's going on in their congregation. Because that crazy brother, and I quote an elder, that crazy brother, how can he be anointed? And that's where the doubt comes in. That's where the gears are not functioning anymore. You hear a click and you know my automatic transmission is starting to have problems. And that's the key moment we are hoping for. That's the moment when people realize, hey, why is the organization changing? Why is this happening? A brother, few years in, just baptized, suddenly is anointed. Or people who visit the hall are anointed. It doesn't make sense anymore, and that number always went down and now it's going up, but it's going up to the sky. And guys, this is the moment. We think the memorial is about attracting people and getting them back into the religion. Yes, that's happening. They are inviting everybody around them, family members, Bible studies, etc. But the thing is, the normal brother and sister, and even elders, I hear, are now questioning the governing body, the teachings, that it doesn't make sense. It's not solid. You don't have a base. It's not grounded. It's built on sand instead of on concrete. That whole thing about the anointed ones. It's still literally 144,000 as a number. But I think they will lose that number in the next couple of years. That they say it's figuratively. It's just, we don't have to take it literally. It's a number and it can be more and less, and leave it in Jehovah's hand. Just follow our direction. The governing body has decided. I think they will make a change on that. Especially with this memorial, it will be even higher, the numbers. I can give you that. And that's the problem. But what I hear now already, building up to the memorial, is that people are doubting this and already are speculating on who's gonna partake in the memorial. And those who are partaking are not leaders. They are not taking the lead. They are not part of the hardcore group JWs who are taking the congregation by hand and leading them into ministry, who are conducting the most Bible studies, who are giving answers every Watchtower study on Sunday. They are slacking. They are loners. They are odd people in the congregation, not even attending every congregation meeting in person. So how can they be anointed? So those questions I hear constantly around this whole memorial from Jehovah's Witnesses who are physically in and mentally in all the way. And the older generation now, the 50, 60 years old, are now questioning this. What is happening? And that's the sign we need. Why? Because now we're getting somewhere. Now we can change something. And I think a good thing is to ask questions. But the more important thing is to leave space for those people. Don't pressure them. Don't convince them. Because the wheel is already slipping off the track. The seed is planted. And now they have to do it themselves to figure it out. You can't convince people, you can't force people, and in your enthusiastic behavior you can think, he's now open for it, I have to mention this, I have to mention that, and waterfall of words. No, leave them space. But in that space you can ask some questions. And I put down a few questions you can ask. What always is a good question for me, and it doesn't have to be for you, is I always use the new light. Because if Jehovah uses new light, why did he let the governing body teach the wrong things for such a long time? And then I'll be quiet, as you notice. I only let go of that balloon. If Jehovah uses new light, why did he let the governing body teach this or that for so long, wrongly, to his faithful servants? And then just be quiet. Let this go round and round and round till they don't come up with a good answer. And if they are defensive, they are not there yet. But don't take offense of that they are getting defenses, because that's the last stand they have in their head, to get defensive. And eventually they give up that fight. They will give up that fight. And if the anointed ones is a subject they are playing with in their minds, you can ask them, do you think this teaching or this truth about this has to be adjusted? And that's also an interesting one, because then you know if they are critically thinking. If they say, yes, I think that has to be adjusted, then they don't take the governing body that serious anymore. The governing body loses their authority over them at that moment. If they conform to, but this is the teaching, they are still dependent on an outsider who tells them what to believe, what to think, what to do. And then they are not there yet. But don't lose hope in those people, because they already had that click moment in their head. That light bulb went on. They thought, hey, this doesn't feel right. The whole teaching about the anointed ones, and then I see people drinking and eating and the numbers go up, and then we had the teaching that it's already fulfilled, now it's open again. They get confused, but in that confusion you have to leave them space. You have to give them room to figure it out themselves. Because I can convince you to do something, but then you are doing it for me, to please me, because you don't take control over your own life. I always ask questions to people I coach online and in person here, and let them figure it out themselves. Why? Because if they come up with the answer themselves, it is their truth. They did it. They are proud of doing it. They are not following somebody. They took charge over their own life. They took charge over their own decision. They decided to do it differently. They came up with that answer. And then it sticks. And they can't go back to what they did before. And then you're starting your personal growth journey, people. Then we are getting somewhere. But if I tell somebody to do something, no. I'm also not giving advice to people who don't ask me to give advice. Because if somebody asks me, Sven, how do you think about this, or that? Then I know that that person wants my opinion and wants to learn something and wants to have a different view to think about. Then someone is open to receive other opinions. They value other opinions then. But if someone is not asking for your opinion, you can say whatever you want, but they are not gonna listen to you. They are not there yet. They want to figure it out alone. So important is, give people space. If you want to help them, ask them a question. Like if Jehovah is using new light through the governing body, why did they let them teach that for 100 years about beards and pants and stuff like that? Or how did you think Jehovah thinks about the anointed ones? Why is the change so much? Good question. Why do you think this has to be adjusted? And always a good one. Do you think Jesus updated his teachings? Never. Was there an age limit at Jesus' teachings? That he said, oh, if you're 70 years old, you can forget about this, then it's not for you anymore. No, Jesus' teachings were, he didn't change his teachings. He didn't change his words. And it was for all categories of ages. For young, middle, and old people. It was all the same. Women or men, married or single. It was always the same. So, if Jehovah and Jesus are not changing anything, why is the governing body changing so much? If they are their mouthpiece on earth. But important is, people, ask questions. They already had a moment. So more moments are coming. Trust that. So don't try to convince people, to force people, to throw a lot of information at them. At that point of time, it's not helping them. You make it worse and you get disappointed yourself. And that's not what we want. So if you have the best interest for someone who has a clicking moment, a crack in the teachings of the Jehovah Witnesses, be thankful, be patient, be understanding, have compassion for such individual, because we all went through it. Relate to yourself. Think about how you received that, how it shook your whole world, that someone is fragile at that moment, and that you have to honor that moment. But also be empathic for the ones who are going through that. And let them come to you. Like a deer out of the woods who's curious. Make them curious about what you have to tell you. but then you have to give them the respect, the time, the room to explore it for themselves at that moment. And if you are patient, and sometimes when you have that feeling that you just let go of a little balloon with a question where they are encouraged to think about themselves, then we are starting to activate that critical thinking that we want. That someone is thinking, whoa, I never thought about that. Another click. And the more clicks they get, the more chance they have as a human being to get loose from the teachings, the organization, and the influence of the governing body. And they will see that eventually. So instead of seeing the memorial as something that is gonna attract a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses maybe back to the Kingdom Hall, see this memorial as the opportunity that people are getting doubts about anointed ones and the whole thing about what's related to the memorial. That we keep on dragging this out, numbers go up, and that it makes no sense for people. So that is a big advantage, I think it is, the memorial, and let's see how this will play out. Thank you guys for watching. We see each other on the next episode.